A fictional K-pop girl group just topped the Billboard charts, hit #1 on Netflix, and delivered the most visually distinct animated musical of the year. K-pop Demon Hunters blends emotional storytelling with bold visuals, slick choreography, memeable moments, and something studios don't always trust: cultural authenticity. It doesn't rely on nostalgia or existing IP. It builds its own world. And the fact that it struck such a massive chord may say more about today's animation than studios are ready to admit. Because what happens when originality wins? Only to be pulverized into the next big franchise. K-pop Demon Hunters is a wild mix. Part magical girl, part musical, part demon-slaying pop spectacle. But beneath all the glitter, great tracks, and memeable moments, there's something more meaningful at play. This is a film that is drawn from lived tradition and rooted in real culture. It's a rendering of cultural identity shaped by Korean and AAPI creators who understand the world they're depicting. There's a genuine sense of care here. The representation isn't just a box to check. It's intentionally layered and personal. And maybe that's why it's connecting with people the way that it is. It's bold, it's fresh, and yet it feels familiar, which could be an indication of where animation is headed, or maybe where it's been confined. But before we dive into this one, if you like video essays that mix anime, film, and pop culture, please like the video and subscribe. That way, you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. From me, of course. Now, let's talk about the demon-slaying girl group that saved the world and might just be saving the animation industry. In case you've been living under a rock or don't have a Netflix subscription, K-pop Demon Hunters follows Rumi, Mira, and Zoe, a three-girl group who secretly moonlight as supernatural protectors. Known on stage as huntrix, the trio channels their stardom into spiritual power, defend off demons, build a fan-powered force field called the Golden Hun Moon, and keep the world safe from a demon king. It's chaotic, over-the-top, and honestly, kind of brilliant. But this isn't your standard glossy CG musical. Visually, it's not something from the current Disney or Pixar playbook. It's more manhwa meets music video than anything. It's similar to the stylistic risk we saw Sony take before with Into the Spider-Verse. The animation employs stylized key poses, concert lighting, and comic book gags like corncob abs, heart-shaped pupils, and literal popcorn tears. That exaggeration gives the movie a visual freedom that's felt absent in most recent animated musicals. It's less concerned with focusing on realism and more invested in individualized stylization, leveraging all of animation's wrinkles as a form of expression. You can see it in the way characters freeze midair, striking a faux magazine pose, while the camera glides around them like a fan cam. What used to be a cost-cutting trick in shows like Speed Racer, here, this is a creative decision. The result feels punchy and vibrant, like a series of visual exclamations. It blends together several elements that underscore the multi-dimensional state of this movie. The fight scenes are staged like music videos, synchronized hits, concert lighting, and rhythmic timed cutaways like a true Korean idol performance. All of that energy? Well, it's kind of a rejection of that sanitized look that most animated musicals default to. This movie puts the visual language to use, and does so fluently. Part of what makes K-pop Demon Hunters feel so refreshing isn't just how it looks. It's where that essence is rooted. As someone outside of this culture, I'm not here to define it. Nevertheless, the elements specific to its creator's background enrich the movie for everyone. This isn't a movie that just borrows Korean aesthetics to dress them up as a familiar Hollywood formula. It's culturally specific and authentic from the inside out. Take the tiger demon and the magpie, for example. They're not just quirky sidekicks that are used to sell merchandise. They're pulled directly from minhwa, a form of Korean folk art, which has a prominent genre that depicts a tiger and a magpie together. Tigers were traditionally the princes of the mountain, prior to going extinct in Korea, as they were feared and respected. But in minhwa, they are portrayed with a balancing comical effect. And magpies are traditionally the bearer of good news, representing cleverness and serving as a friend to humanity. Their portrayal together was often put up for New Year's, and it still is in some cases. In all, they're a symbolic pairing that's instantly recognizable to Korean and other East Asian audiences. Here, it's used without explanation, which almost serves as a form of continuity across places and generations. To go a step further, there's the use of Norige charms, and a spiritual force field built on fan energy. And of course, the theme of singing as a form of supernatural protection. All of it ties back to Korean mythology, shamanism, and even the cultural role of K-pop idols today, which is global. That two-pronged specificity isn't just visuals, it shapes the story's emotional core. Rumi's arc is a perfect example. She's the daughter of a human pop idol and a demon father. Marked by the same purple imprints as the spirits she's sworn to eliminate, her identity is literally split between the two worlds. The fact that she loses her voice, something so central to both her power and her sense of self, feels less like a random plot device and more like a metaphor for shame, for silence, for trying to suppress the parts of yourself that don't feel acceptable. And that depth makes this feel different from how representation usually works in animation. It's not just about seeing a Korean protagonist on screen. It's about getting that glimpse into her story, her conflict, her voice, or the absence of it, with distinct attention to detail. The result is something rare. Representation that doesn't just look right, it feels right, because it's coming from inside. These days, rarely do stories that blend specific and deeply held cultural traditions to create what could be considered an original story prove to materialize, though Pixar's Coco may be the standalone example from the last decade. Its use of Mexican folklore to create a universally heartfelt story was so effective, in fact, that Disney absurdly sought to trademark the Day of the Dead, a meaningful holiday throughout Mexico and some other parts of Latin America. Other than that, Disney's success producing culturally authentic representation has been a little bit more elusive. Moana worked to a degree because it was grounded in real cultural consultation and gave Polynesian voices a meaningful seat at the table. Even with a fantastical story, it respected the emotional and spiritual truths of the culture it drew from. Even still, Moana faced criticism from some Polynesian voices, like those featured on platforms such as the Coconut, for reinforcing stereotypes and commodifying sacred cultural elements. Raya and the Last Dragon faced similar backlash for reducing several Southeast Asian cultures down into a vague fantasy world. With Raya and the Last Dragon, Disney wanted to celebrate Southeast Asian cultures, but instead created a fictional pan-Asian kingdom that blurred distinct identities into a generalized aesthetic. Despite its intentions, it was created for cultural homogenization and casting mostly East Asian actors for Southeast Asian roles. It looked the part, but it didn't always feel sincere. What makes K-pop Demon Hunters so refreshing, despite coming from a Western studio like Sony, is that it got this approach right. And they haven't ventured to try to trademark anything. Ultimately, it doesn't just borrow Korean motifs to dress up a Hollywood plot. It's shaped by Korean and AAPI creators who deeply understand the cultural nuances they're depicting. And it shows. From the Hojakdu combo of the tiger and magpie, to the spiritual use of the Norige, to the way idol culture becomes the story's emotional engine. This is what happens when studios trust creators to tell a story from the heart, And the result is a film that doesn't just check a representation box. It tells a story that feels honest, grounded, and emotionally resonant. K-pop Demon Hunters feels like a revelation, but the story it tells may look a little bit more familiar. Rumi's arc mirrors a structure that we've seen before. A girl wrestling with identity and isolation, losing her voice, and then reclaiming it in a moment of musical catharsis. It's not a copy of Frozen, but the shape of it is there. A deeply personal internal struggle. A signature power ballad, a character arc that does not end with a love interest, but with self-acceptance. But here's the difference. Frozen wrapped its story. There was no dangling cliffhanger, no franchise tease. It ended. And then exploded in popularity. And like most successful animated films, that's when the franchise machine revved up. Shorts, sequels, soundtrack remixes. Elsa didn't need a sequel, but once the chart hits and the costume sold, she got one. And that's where K-pop Demon Hunters might follow the same path, whether it was meant to or not. The movie's director, Maggie Kang, has said they left backstories for Zoe and Mira on the cutting room floor, not because they weren't important, but because the film was only 85 minutes. And this was Rumi's story. Ordinarily, the risk has been that sequels, or any reach for success, end up bogging down the initial achievement. But the risk here is that the industry views K-pop Demon Hunters' success and treats it as a one-time win. But it's far from that. It demonstrates what audiences want in a story. Boldness combined with authenticity, all thoughtfully told. This isn't about filling a quota. It's about recognizing that representation and good storytelling are universal. But in this case, it's from Sony. And that's why K-pop Demon Hunters is franchise ready, because it was allowed to be sincere. Kang said it best: when you create IP that's exciting to people, everyone's inspired. I just hope that this lights a fire under some people who can make those decisions. That's the hope. That instead of asking, how do we do this again? Studios start asking, what else is possible? K-pop Demon Hunters demonstrates that you don't need a familiar brand to make a cultural impact. You need vision. You need care. You need creators who trust their stories, rooted in something real, can speak across languages, geography, and genres. If the film's success sparks a sequel, great. But the bigger win would be if it inspires studios to greenlight the next bold, specific story before it goes viral. Because this wasn't just lightning in a bottle. It was something carefully made, joyfully told, deeply felt, and golden. And if there's any lesson worth taking from this, it's that audiences are tired of watching studios chase the same storm twice. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and now I want to hear from you. So tell me, what are your thoughts on K-pop Demon Hunters? And if you like the video and want to be a part of future anime, pop culture, and film discussions, be sure to like the video, tap the bell, and subscribe to the channel. I will see you all next time. Bye!